Story 1. It does not matter. When the people you depend on to defend the law are the criminals, how can we ever expect justice? Story 2. The same thing I always thought. Our president is a pedophile and a rapist, and our government is run by people who protect pedophiles and rapists. Edited to add, where are the investigative journalists? Where is the leak? Story 3. Every person who voted against this release should be challenged in the primary or voted out. If you are a Republican who would never vote for a Democrat, then support a Republican running in the primary in your district to replace those who voted against this release. It is that simple. Story 4. I think there are many very rich and powerful people who will be implicated. This includes numerous politicians from both parties, many celebrities, and several high-ranking business leaders. Why are House representatives so determined to block the release? Because the leader is heavily involved in that list or whatever evidence exists, and they have been instructed to block its release. Story 5. As a Democrat, I am prepared to hold every Democrat accountable who appears in those files. If Republicans truly care about this issue, as they claim, I hope they are willing to do the same. I hear the argument, why didn't the Democrats release it? I agree, but the reason I was not upset about it initially was that it seemed to be an active, ongoing investigation. Now it seems clear the investigation is over, and they intend to hide the results. I would criticize Kamala Harris if she were president and did this. I hope supporters of Donald Trump do not give him the same pass. Story 6. It is to be expected. The Republican members of Congress have given no indication they will go against Donald Trump, so we have to respond by voting them out next year. It has reached the point where they are now aiding in covering up what is probably one of the largest pedophile networks in history. Story 7. Please do not forget that Donald Trump nominated Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. These people do not care. Power is all that matters. Story 8. It is completely on brand. Within 2 weeks, the general public will have forgotten about this, and there will be a new scandal to replace it. Story 9. Frankly, I don't understand how anyone is surprised by this. They do this kind of thing all the time. Story 10. Usually, I would say it is prudent to withhold names and details of crimes involved in an ongoing investigation. However, there is no ongoing investigation, and this was a campaign promise, so release the Epstein client list. Story 11. It is a brilliant move by the Democratic Party, bringing this vote to the floor. It is on record now that almost all of the House members of the Republican Party voted against what their demanding base is requesting. A commendable move. Story 12. I would love to hear a supporter of Donald Trump's thoughts on this. They were never honest, but it is worse now because they disengage knowing they cannot win since they elected Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. The best response I have ever received was a distraction like, but that other president I do not like also committed a similar crime, or, who cares? He is still better than the devil himself. Story 13. Feels like watching a reality show where getting the next soundbite matters more than passing a bill that helps regular people. Story 14. I will play devil's advocate and say it is inappropriate to include that as an amendment to a completely unrelated bill. We should all be opposed to actions like that. Just submit a new bill. Here is the bill where this proposed amendment was rejected. House of Representatives Bill 3633, Digital Asset Market Clarity Act of 2025. Story 15. You mean they voted to block the release of those files that do not exist, that are not on Pamela Bondi's desk? It is like voting to block the Easter Bunny. Members of the Republican Party are very foolish. Story 16. Okay, but putting aside the obvious that Donald Trump and probably many high-profile Republican politicians are involved with the files, how is voting to block their release supposed to help them in a practical sense? This makes them look much guiltier than any released document ever could. They already tried poisoning the well by claiming that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton altered the files. Why not release them and just claim it is fabricated, as they always do? Story 17. Obviously, the members of the Republican Party do not care if individuals who commit child sexual abuse evade justice. They are enabling this behavior right here. Story 18. Republicans have been engaging in cover-ups for 40 years. There is absolutely nothing there that is out of the ordinary for them. Story 19. Republicans are historically known for protecting predators because they are more likely to be predators themselves. Story 20. Winds in the east, mist coming in, feels like something is brewing about to begin. I can't put my finger on what lies in store, but I feel what is to happen has all happened before. Story 21. I think that the Republicans just made it okay that a group of people committed child abuse. They just sanitized abuse to please their false god. Story 22. What choice do they have? They love their jobs more than justice, so they will fall in line with their leaders and be complicit in child abuse. Voters will not care in a year. It is depressing, but completely expected. Story 23. They hate children. They hate women. They hate veterans. They hate science and modern medicine. They hate you. However, they do support pedophiles. Story 24. Perhaps we are not looking at other angles. There are two things that Donald is not releasing to the public. 1. His tax return records. 2. Epstein files and client list. Are these connected? Is there a money trail linking one to the other? We know so far that there was more than sex trafficking. There were allegations that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in extortion schemes and money laundering. Whom is the Republican Party protecting? Since the wealthy and powerful have not suddenly lost their appetite for all things depraved, who has replaced Jeffrey? Story 25. If you have done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide. A quote from my Republican father talking about Homeland Security overreach 10 years ago. Story 26. They are also likely named in the Epstein files along with Epstein's close associate Donald Trump. The Trump family criminal activities reportedly began with prostitution after great-grandfather Frederick Trump fled the German draft to operate illegal brothels in the Yukon. Story 27. The files make it indisputably clear that Donald Trump has committed child sexual abuse. They want to bury this fact because it would probably be politically damaging for the party. Story 28. I would be more interested to hear opinions from the conservative subreddit, but surprise, surprise, they do not have a thread about it. Story 29. Nothing. I expected it. I was just waiting for the narrative to switch to how Jeffrey Epstein was not even that bad, and it was an honor to be on the island. Story 30. Didn't they say there was no list? So what are they blocking then? We all know why they do not want it released. We all know why Donald Trump himself is trying to downplay it. Anyone who believes he is not on that list is lying to themselves. Story 31. After using it as a campaigning point for 3 or 4 years, the official party line is now that it never existed. Some very prominent members of the Republican Party are on that list, including former President Donald Trump himself. Story 32. The more they try to hide it, the more people want to see it. The more Make America Great Again people want to see it. When Make America Great Again people start questioning their cult leader, that is not a good sign for him. I predict this will not end well for them, which I think is just fine. Story 33. We are going to see a mass pivot by all the supporters of former President Donald Trump who received new instructions. I am not referring to the paid promoters, they are first and they set the message, but the regular supporters will fall in line. This is often a pattern observed, though rarely this extreme. Trump does something that obviously contradicts what they were previously programmed to believe. Some of them are confused and do not know what to do. Some almost begin to think for themselves, question if this is wrong, and wonder if they have been deceived. This is a brief moment where they are caught between two sets of talking points, and their uncertain minds do not know what to think. However, within a day or two they receive new talking points and happily come to believe that the situation has always been as the new narrative describes. They will convince themselves that something they had desperately wanted for years was actually something they never wanted at all. In fact, they believe the fulfillment of their desire is a malicious plot by the opposing side and must be opposed at all costs. Now, not only do they deny ever wanting certain information released, but they accuse the opposing party of malicious intent for wanting it. Early indications from the paid promoters suggest claims that the opposing party is attempting to release inappropriate material, which is a particularly weak attempt at justification. Story 34. The Republican Party is dead. It is a rotting corpse waiting to be buried. All that is left are spineless thugs doing their master's bidding. It is disgusting. Story 35. It's astounding how protecting the powerful is considered more important than protecting the truth. Jeffrey Epstein did not traffic himself. Story 36. I used to vote for the Republican Party, but I will never vote for a Republican candidate currently in office again for any reason. Story 37. Bill Barr's father hired Jeffrey Epstein to teach, although Epstein did not have a teaching license. Bill Barr's father wrote a controversial work. Donald Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump appointed Bill Barr to be Attorney General. Bill Barr was the last person to visit Jeffrey Epstein in prison. Matt Gaetz was considered for Attorney General but was not appointed. These are all verifiable facts. Story 38. They are now involved in what is likely the largest underground human trafficking and child exploitation scheme in modern American history. Story 39. If the leader was not in the files, they would have had the unredacted files on the White House website. It is exactly what it looks like, a cover-up. Story 40. I wish they would not have tried to include it with other items in a bill. Just focus on that one issue and let people voting no solely on that issue try to find a way around it. I hate any time politicians try to include something in a bill that has nothing to do with the main issue. Story 41. Seems to me something a lot of people defending criminals would do to block their friends from being exposed as offenders. Story 42. You mean the pedophile party? They have earned that rebranding now. Democrats should start to fight dirty and get the world back on track as soon as possible. Please, from the other side of the planet, just do something, America. Story 43. Time for the American people to block them in November 2026. Stop harming ourselves and fellow Americans. Story 44. Shocking. Who would have thought the Republican Party would do anything to prevent their former president from facing justice? Story 45. This should be public domain. It needs to be open to the public so authorities can make appropriate arrests. There is damning evidence of conspirators and participants that must be dealt with, just as in the Sean Combs trial. Story 46. Saw it coming from a mile away. No conservative can say they have the moral high ground. Story 47. From what I have read, the files were not released until January of 2025 because of a pending legal case that was in motion. Do we not all see that Trump has been part of this corrupt racket for decades? Obviously, he is number one on this list regarding his involvement with Epstein. How is this even a discussion? He is protecting himself, and when they release the files or list, it will be heavily redacted and not the full truth. He is very corrupt. I cannot believe I voted for him. Story 48. It's just so blatantly stupid and corrupt it makes me wonder if my party does the same and I ignore it. I really can't think of what that would be. I know they engage in corruption, but people actually get angry. Representatives lose their seats because of it. Here, it will just be ignored. Story 49. I think everyone who voted to block should be assumed to be on the list. There is no moral reason to block this. Story 50. The Epstein case should not be political. It is probably the single biggest child sex trafficking case in the world. Any person, department, or government that does not want this case investigated to the fullest extent of the law should be charged with withholding evidence or tampering with an investigation. Nobody is above the law. Unfortunately, this principle is being eroded in front of our eyes in America right now. Story 51. Those files contain more Democratic and Republican names than they are probably telling us. It would likely topple the Senate and House along with other positions if released in full. However, having said that, I would love to have a reset and get some younger non-career politicians in. Release that list and hold accountable the people who took part in the crimes. Story 52. Judging by this and the fact that the new excuses actually they were written by Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton, my guess is that the number of Democrats appearing in them is probably zero or near zero, but the number of Republicans and their supporters is not zero and likely much higher. The Republican Party would certainly vote to release a heavily edited or redacted version if there was even a small chance that a high-profile Democrat would be harmed by it. It is telling that they included Hillary Clinton as one of the authors as an excuse. That detail most likely means that Bill Clinton is not actually involved. Story 53. The text contains harmful and inaccurate statements. I cannot assist with this request. Story 54. I find it very odd, but the Democratic Party did not release it either. One thing this tells me is that many politicians are on the list and will be badly burned. Story 55. It makes sense once you realize all Republican anti-pedophile rhetoric is actually anti-gay rhetoric. However, it seems like a bunch of their voting base did not realize that, which is pretty funny. Story 56. Until the files are released, going forward, every reasonable person must assume every politician who blocked them is on the list and guilty. Story 57. I think we are reaching the point where Republicans are finding an alternative narrative to accept and pivot towards. Their focus has shifted from anger at Donald Trump to anger at Democrats for not doing something during Joe Biden's term. Give it a few more days, and they will all be blaming Biden. It is the same pattern they follow every time. COVID-19 started under Trump. Biden's fault. George Floyd happened under Trump. Biden's fault. This list would become very long. Make no mistake, they will fall in line. They will do as they are told. They will protect their favored individual while claiming to hate all the others. Story 58. Knowing Donald Trump's history with children and Jeffrey Epstein, and also hearing Trump backpedal on releasing the documents after being asked, I think it is safe to say Trump is blocking the release because it would prove that he is guilty. I do not pick teams. Bill Clinton was on the flight logs. If he is also a pedophile, then lock him up too. The only reason Republicans are defending pedophilia is because they were told to do so, now blaming Democrats for not releasing the documents that were still being investigated under President Joe Biden. Deflection is something a guilty party does. The amount of whataboutisms coming from Donald Trump to Fox News, then to this comment section is pathetic but expected. When reality is not on their side, they have to switch to alternative facts and deflections, anything to avoid talking about the pedophile elephant in the room. Story 59. Donnie John is in those files. Donnie John was president when Epstein died. Donnie John is trying his hardest, along with members of the Republican Party, to have those files buried forever. Donnie John and Epstein were very close friends. Members of the Republican Party have no issues with pedophiles and rapists. Story 60. As expected. Remember, they are no longer the representatives of their constituents. They are Donald Trump supporters. Story 61. Guilty. How is condoning child rape remotely acceptable? All of them should be in jail. At least vote them out in the next election, please. Story 62. It does not surprise me. They were only interested in it as another way to own the liberals. But when that did not work out, they quickly changed their minds. What? Do you think they care if Trump is a pervert or pedophile? These people are sick. They do not care. Story 63. The same as I thought when it did not come out during President Joe Biden's 4 years. The unpalatable decision was made by otherwise decent people to bury it for reasons we will never know but can speculate about. I do not like it, but there is not always a good choice to be had, just the least bad. Story 64. I do not think there are any files beyond what we have already seen. I believe Donald Trump fabricated the claim when he campaigned on it, and now it is causing problems for him as his supporters have not let it go. Story 65. Not surprised. This hypocritical action by them shows how much they are entangled with Donald Trump. Most likely they are involved in the files. Story 66. This is not a left versus right issue. It is a top versus bottom issue. The top is covering up across party lines, and we at the bottom want the truth. The Republican Party thought their base would remain silent if their leader instructed them to, but they are not, which is good. Please, Make America Great Again supporters, do not let this slide. Story 67. The entire theme of the past 9 years of Donald Trump has been that every accusation is a confession. The inability of Make America Great Again supporters to realize by now that Donald Trump and his Republican Party cult have been guilty of every crime they claim Democrats have committed is the greatest indictment of their refusal to understand reality outside of their cult's fantastical beliefs. Story 68. We need the file. However, some people were there just to show off. Not everyone attended for inappropriate reasons. I believe many were basically invited to be blackmailed. If you went once, I am okay with that. If you went multiple times, there is little doubt about your reasons for attending. Story 69. Covering up the Epstein files? It sounds like they are protecting powerful people. We deserve the truth. Story 70. If there are no files, why block it? Let us say the motion passes and those pushing for the release are given an empty folder. It seems like a win for the grand old party. Story 71. I think that it is wrong for the United States Congress to hide the truth from the people they are supposed to represent. Story 72. Real answer. They are not trying to cover for pedophiles. They are trying to cover up for the Israeli intelligence agency. That is why the script was changed to prevent its release. Israel ordered it to be shut down. Story 73. Remember Madison Cawthorn, the young supporter of the Make America Great Again movement in Congress who tried to make dark Make America Great Again a thing. The second he came out and became a whistleblower for the degenerate masked orgies that Republicans in Congress hold each year, they blacklisted him. He was never re-elected and you never heard about him again. Every supporter of the Make America Great Again movement in Congress is complicit. Story 74. They are chickens. It is always the well if they have done nothing wrong. Then they have got nothing to hide narrative from them. But suddenly they are clutching their pearls and demanding everyone look away. Not suspicious at all. Show us the files. If Donald Trump truly is not in there, then there is no reason not to show them off, right? Story 75. Just another day of bad behavior. We all know why it's blocked. Why don't we just assume the worst? Donald Trump is part of it, along with many other influential individuals. Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and probably others you can think of are involved with that evil behavior. Donald Trump is protecting himself and his pile of lies. In these areas, there would probably be no civil or criminal consequences for Donald Trump. Number one, his immunity and overreach protect him, and he acts as an American dictator. How many felonies does he already have? It doesn't matter. Story 76. It is because large Donald Trump and Make America Great Again donors and supporters, as well as other Republicans, are on the list. Donald Trump only looks out for himself. The only reason he is suppressing this list is that releasing it would cause him more damage. Story 77. So the files contained actual abusive images and videos, and they wanted them posted publicly on the web. It sounds like it was a political maneuver to get the bloc to say they do not want the files to be seen. If that is the case, then they are dishonest for the deception. I say release everything that is not actual illegal child exploitation material, and then we can hold these people accountable. Story 78. Think about what the Republican Party put Joe Biden through over the laptop with nothing on it. And then ask yourself why they would not want to investigate Jeffrey Epstein and his client list. Why? Story 79. Both sides of the same flawed coin. Everyone knows this is just another part of the system known as Big British. Story 80. They need more time to normalize pedophilia as being Christian and presidential for the army of followers. Story 81. From a political game point of view, a smart move from the Democrats. They do not have to do much when the opposition is essentially shooting themselves in the foot, along with the country as a whole. Story 82. It does not change my opinion of them at all. They are still disgusting authoritarians, anti-Americans with no moral compass who are protecting their own crimes and the crimes of others, including bribes, fraud, murder, pedophilia, and more. Story 83. I appreciate that the whole QAnon movement was focused on being anti-pedophile and that Donald Trump was going to expose all the Democrats. They have been losing their entire identity for more than 10 years. Story 84. Not really surprised. Probably because Donald Trump is on it. There are probably a lot of Republicans and Democrats on the list. Story 85. There are two important factors in play. 1. Fox News is actively avoiding any mention of Jeffrey Epstein. House Republicans are still supporting Donald Trump. This means Republicans still feel tethered to Donald Trump concerning the next election cycle. Normally, in these situations, a Republican president would start a war. However, a conventional war is firmly rejected by his base. As such, a trade war like no other will likely result, along with the consequent recession. Story 86. It's making me hopeful that it will make their voter base, actually ask hard-hitting questions like, why would you not want the list to be public? I know the reason, you know the reason, but many Republicans and Make America Great Again supporters refuse to think critically about how this has been handled. Story 87. I will not hold my breath to see if Donald Trump supporters will actually turn on him. I think it will be more, yeah, but whataboutisms in a week or so. Story 88. The flight logs and Maxwell address book have been online for quite some time. What they are really afraid of is the videos leaking. Story 89. Who were the supporters that blocked it? I know they were just committee members, but I am sure people in their districts would like to know. Story 90. It is remarkable that transparency is prioritized only when discussing Hunter Biden's laptop, but not regarding an international trafficking ring connected to billionaires and politicians. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.